Hi everybody, Eva Jolly Harbor Soap Market here. I am doing a remake of my Lumberjack, my Cedar Blend Soap. And so I've already prepped it. I have my lye solution and my lye solution and my oils are average 75 degrees. My lye is 77, my oils are 75. And I have already added some bentonite clay and some brown elate clay to the oils. So this will be the main color. And then to eat these, I'm going to add red, and I have yellow and blue already pre-wet with a little water, so I can create some other wood-like tones with those. And I have some black already pre-wet as well. Alright, so I'll get started. I already have my oils, essential oils out. It's a blend of cedarwood, some citruses, bergamot, and a tiny bit of Egyptian geranium. Just like 8 drops of that. So I'll get this started and we'll go from there. I did add sodium lactate. This is a 6-pound batch, and since I do a 25% water discount, I only add 1 teaspoon of sodium lactate per 2 pounds of oils. So I added 3 teaspoons of sodium lactate to the lye solution beforehand. I do not want to overmix it because I am going to do a thin line type pour for the wood look. So I'm merely blending enough to make sure it's emulsified. Then I'm going to split it. You look for it to be stained, stuck evenly. There's no trace. You don't want it to be really having trace yet. You won't have time to mix everything. But you don't want it to be separating oil and water on here. And it looks like it's stained an even coat. So I feel fine going ahead and splitting it now. Oops, I do need to mix the oils in though. The fragrance. That would be good. That would be very sad to forget that. Which I have done it. I think everybody does it at some point. I have to leave things right where I'm going to see it. Smells really good. Definitely mostly cedar, but with a little bit of the citrus and the others, it's not enough to scream orange or tangerine, but it just adds a bit of dimension to it. The handles away. I'll pull them up in a minute after I separate it. Last time I did it fairly evenly between all the different colors. This time I'm going to use smaller amounts of the accent colors. And then that'll be the main pot. Set that aside for a moment. And bring these up. I didn't worry about mixing a ton of different colors because you can color blend all of these. Oh, my little whisk. And I don't want it to be like a bright color, but enough to be different. last time I did this, I mixed way too much of the color. I didn't need all of it, and then you have this little bit. You don't quite use it all, but you don't want to get rid of it. And so I held on to it covered for quite a while. But then you just don't need it anymore. Okay, so let me do this. For some reason, the yellow oxide, I am using oxides, red Americana oxide, and this is yellow oxide, and then I have blue ultramarine. So I'm going to check that out first before adding more. I like oxides. Technically, even though everything else about this batch is all natural, essential oils, you know, good healthy oils in it. I do a blend of olive oil, coconut, castor oil, and shea butter. Super fat at about 6%. Yeah. That'll be fine. I'll scrape the rest of it out. Alright. And then, but oxides, they are technically lab created. They are molecularly identical to what would be found in nature, minus any metals that would be in the natural product, which you wouldn't want. This is settled. Alright, that's pretty good. I tell you, one thing I like about this ultramarine blue is a little bit goes a long ways, that's for sure. I like that. Alrighty. And for my black, I only want a small amount of black, very small amount. So let me get that. Because it doesn't take much to provide a nice accent. No, I'll just use this. That'll just add some nice interest. And this is activated charcoal in this. Keep that handy. Now to do the thin line type pour, I am using a log mold. It holds 6 pounds, which I will split into 2 tall skinny loaves. And the first time I tried this thin line wood look, I did all the pours along one side. This time I'm going to pour it in the center. Just one on top of the other, one row on top of the other. And see how that looks. I know you probably hear me doing all this ticking and tacking in the background. I just find it makes cleanup easier later if I do a little bit of maintenance along the way. I keep some soapy vinegar water here to rinse off in, and also it gives me something if I get a little splash of soap on me I can quickly wipe something off of my skin should I need to. But I always wear my glasses and my gloves. I'm wearing glasses on my face, so very important. Alright, so I have my lug mold here. Bear with me just a moment, and I will pull my camera around. My tape keeps coming off. I'll go ahead and turn it. Try to turn it. Move my blender out of the way. I don't film very often, so I don't feel very organized. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Does that help? I don't know if it does or not. You can kind of see in there. Ah. You can kind of see in there. Alright. That'll have to be good enough, y'all. So, I will start before I poop. That's what I should do. I need another picture. Let me grab it. So, I will totally blow my other lines out of the water, so to speak, if I just pour out of this big old bucket. So there we go. So I'll start with this line. Right down the center. It is kind of high. Normally thin lines, this should probably be a little closer, but it is what it is. And I can tell already this is not level. So I have to do a quick fix of that. It's not off as much as I thought. So I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it for now. It's not going to be in an identical pattern every time, that's for sure. Or sequence. Get this over here. Get some of my black in here. Okay. Oh, this is almost too runny. So I'm curious, any of you that are watching, if you have a favorite essential oil soap that you like to make. I know, of course, I like lavender and lemongrass. This time of year with the summer coming up is a really practical one to make because it works as a, you know, the insects don't like it and it just smells bright and cheery, a nice summery scent. Cedarwood also is something that insects don't like. You know, you hear mothballs, well, that's cedarwood. So they don't like it. Peppermint, I love that. Always like a good strong peppermint. I stayed away from cedarwood for a long time though, for some reason. But I had more people, they were interested in something more for the guys, and not every guy likes lavender. So I started playing around with the Cedarwood blend, and if you've not already checked out the EO calc, originally designed by all the hard work of Kennicott of modern soap making. That's an awesome resource. You can put in and just pick a essential oil, put it in there, hit show me the blends, and it'll show you several blends that include that essential oil, so it takes some guesswork out of it. And then there's also a great resource on there for safe percentages of using the essential oils, so that you can put in your product type that you're making, bath and body, skin contact, not skin contact. So it's really good for people doing all sorts of crafts using essential oils. Then you can go ahead and print it off, and it does not have any charge to use it. So it's very generous, and lots of work went into it. So please check it out. And that's eocalc.com. So that's part of the inspiration for this cedar blend that I put together. I put a little bit of my own twist in it. Like, instead of just grapefruit, I added tangerine also as part of my citrus part. And I added 2 different types of cedarwood. It's mostly the Virginiana cedarwood. It's less expensive, but I also like the rounded scent of Atlas, so that is in there as well. Cedarwood Atlas. And the essential oil that I put in here, the only 8 drops of the geranium Egyptian. I waited a long time to ever purchase that because I didn't know much about it, and just as time went on, I slowly expanded the essential oils that I had to play with, and a little goes a long way. It seems to have good staying power, at least with the cedarwood. It's not enough to really smell it and think, oh, that's geranium. But it provides a nice dimension. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of my oils out, or my batter, my main batter out of this, so I don't forget any. It probably would have been nice if this batter was a little thicker, because it is flowing together quite a bit. But I'll be curious to see what it looks like when I cut it tomorrow. Just scraping my container out. Don't want to waste anything. I'll be right back. This is one reason why I don't do videos more often. I haven't figured out all the cool ways to edit and make it shorter and cut out all these different spots. I've tried it and made some mistakes that I just thought, why did I even bother? Hopefully with time I'll get better. So if any of you watching use video editing, if you have any tips, I'd greatly appreciate it. One thing about experimenting with different techniques, it's always going to be soap. I definitely recommend, if you're starting out, it's okay to experiment with different stuff. And it's exciting to experiment with different stuff. I did that too, but it wasn't until I started kind of sticking with a recipe instead of changing everything all at once. I got to where I found a base recipe that I felt comfortable with, and I basically make all my recipes based on that. And then I started experimenting more with different colors and whatnot. It gives you a lot more control when you're testing things out to know what changes different aspects of your batch. Because you'll think, okay, I only changed this or that, so this improvement has to do with this, or that didn't work as well. It just gives you a lot more control if you don't change too many things at once. Pick a recipe, get familiar with its qualities, and then experiment with adding a different oil or changing a different oil or the percentages, and you will understand better. Oh, that's what it did, because you knew what the original recipe did to start with. You were familiar with it. So I do recommend that. Take notes too. Always take notes. Because there's been times I've forgotten to take as good a notes as I should have, and then I'd be like, well, why couldn't I repeat that? What did I do? Why did this turn out better? Or worse, you go to do something again and it turns out cruddy, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot, I should have made a note of that. And so, to avoid unnecessary issues, take notes and then look at them. I tend to keep a notebook handy, and now I do have software that I use, and so I always make a printout of my recipe and I make notes on it of the temperature, what they were when I combined. I took advantage of a sale at Harbor Freight and got one of those infrared thermometers for, I think it was 19 instead of having to pay 30 something. And it makes it easy. Like today, I had prepped stuff, and then I had to go run an errand, help somebody with something. And so things cooled down quite a bit. And everything's way cooler than I would normally have soap. I like to soap around 100 degrees. But this one was 75. I warmed up my oils a little bit because they were 65. It's cool in the garage. But I know, so if my batch turns out a little different, I'll know that it likely has to do with the temperature. Because that's the only thing really different. Other than how I'm pouring it, which that shouldn't make a big difference other than how it looks. The quality of the soap and the texture should be the same. It may not gel like I would like it to, but we'll see. We'll see. There's that tape trying to come off again. What happens, I think I get a little oil, even though I wipe it off. That tape just does not want to stick. And look, I forgot my black. Look, I have all this black left. Well, it'd look weird if I... This is very fluid. Very, 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 very fluid. So it'll have a lot of black in the center. What can I say? Alright folks, it's the next evening, and I went ahead and I unmolded the batch of cedarwood and split the loaf, and I waited a little bit to cut it because it was a little soft still. It did not go through gel stage except in the center, so it was really ugly. I really prefer, if it's going to gel, that it goes all the way through, because what it does, if you can see this, you can see that it's darker in the center, and then it has like this cloudy around the edges. When I first cut it, it just looked real pale, but as it's been to the open air, it's creating some soda ash, or what's called soda ash. And so you can see that. I think you can see it. How it's clear in the center, that's where it gelled. I like gelled soap because it just stays nicer looking and it doesn't get the soda ash as much as you can see around the edge. So this is one I have not cleaned up yet. There is another soap maker, which I will have to look up the link, but she did a blog post on how to fix, well, her experiments of how to fix partial gel, where it leaves that moon shape in it. There's another piece where it did that. You can see where it gelled, it's brighter colored, and then has that moon where it did not gel. That was closer to the center, so it's not as much. But here's some examples of how I poured it. Remember, I poured it down the center for the lines. So here's two pieces that I put together. And where I had hanger swirled the center, that little bit of for the black, and it just created that kind of a circle shape if it wasn't cut. But the half piece then looks like that. I like how they turned out. Interesting. A little different. This one looks like a bug to me, like a beetle, before I cut it. So, and then there's it split. The tops are still have that ashy look. There wasn't much I could do about it, but I'm happy that I could salvage it. And how I salvaged it, following the tips of this other soap maker, which her name is slipping my mind, a female soaper. She went ahead and oven baked hers to force an after the cut gel gently, because you don't want to melt it in your oven and have it squish through the bars. But it worked. It worked. You can see still it's a little more pale around the edge, but it got rid of the ashy part, and then I was able to, after it cooled, to run it across my planer, and it just made the colors pop a lot more. So I'm okay with it now, because I was pretty worried there at first. It looked pretty ugly. So I wanted to share that with you. Another thing I learned, how you might have noticed in the video, how when I was putting the red in, those drops, after the fact, I was hoping to like make a design on top. They just disappeared in the thin batter. Well, I found out when I molded it, it had sunk all the way to the bottom. That's just one example. I already like cleaned it out. It looked terrible. I turned it up on the end. There's another one that I already carved out. But the bottom of my loaf looked like it had been hit with buckshot and was bleeding. It was really quite horrific looking. So I dug all those pits out, and lesson learned, I didn't mix it up enough, and so that pigment just dropped straight to the bottom in my thin batter. But I wanted to share that with you. And as far as the oven processing part of this, to get rid of that gel or that ungelled look, which these still have to go in the oven, and that'll get rid of some of this. I put it in there about 170 in my little toaster oven for close to 20 minutes. I let it cool off just a little bit. It was still warm to the touch, but it was soft, so I had to let it cool off a little bit. I flipped them over and I did it for another 10 minutes, and then let them cool for a bit, and then took them out. And then a little while later I was able to run them across the planer and clean them up. So I hope that helps. Feel free to ask questions. Go ahead and click the like button if you enjoyed it. I hope it helped, and let me know what you think. Y'all have a great day. Bye.